the meetings to order just yet, but just so you'll know what order we're taking things, because we got a bunch of different agendas. First of all, I'm going to call to order the open GP and recess it until after the special open council. And then we'll call to order the special open council. We'll hear item 1, which is a business license cancellation on the special council. Then we'll reconvene the open GP. After that, we reconvene the special council meeting for the other 2 items. Then we go into closed for GP, and at some point during the proceedings, we'll have the public hearing at 5:30. And the plan is that we'll hold that public hearing right here. So that just gives you an overview of where we're going today. So, all right, so it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the open General Purposes Committee meeting. And now I'll recess it until after we hear from the special council meeting. So I'll call to order the special council meeting. There has been a request to have that matter adjourned. Is the license holder, is that person here this afternoon? We do have a letter or an email. Okay, so we'll hear from staff on this matter. We've all got the report, which I think is pretty straight ahead, but what do you want to add to that one?
Your Worship and members of council, if I may, regarding the request for an adjournment, it's my respectful submission that under the circumstances, that request should be denied, and that denial be made by way of a council resolution or vote, so that it's clear that the matter was considered, and if my submission is accepted, denied.
All right, someone want to? Okay, and the motion is to adjourn the matter. And then we have to.
Well, the motion.
The motion is to adjourn, and then we, if we're so disposed, then we just defeat that motion.
Yes,
Okay.
That's.
All right, Councilor McNulty, was there something more at this point?
No, I just think getting our advice from our solicitor, I think we go on record as saying we deny it so that it is public knowledge, and we take that recommendation as opposed to, so that the public out there can hear that we are going to deal with this matter tonight. Thank you.
All right, so the motion, the motion is to adjourn, so if you don't agree with that, then just vote against it. So anyone in favor of adjourning the motion, the matter? Those opposed? All right, so that motion is defeated with all parties voting accordingly. All right, so with that, I'm going to recess the special council meeting, and I'll call to order the open General Purposes Committee.
Your Worship, we have to, we only vote, the vote that occurred was just on whether or not to adjourn.
Yeah, you're right. Now we have to deal with it. Okay, someone want to move the staff recommendation? Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Councilor McNulty?
Yeah, just for the record, through our solicitor, what can we do other than provide moral support for these people in the situation that they're in? What can the city legally do? So the public, if we have delegations here, they're concerned, and we need to give them some direction of where we can help them if we can. And if we can't help them in some areas, then we can come out and say it.
Through your Worship to Councilor McNulty, in terms of legal remedies available, I would refer to the staff report, and that is the recommendation that the business license be canceled for the reasons and on the facts and evidence set out in the report. That with that cancellation, the business will no longer be able to operate in our city.
And the reason I ask that, Your Worship, is the folks that have come here today with concerns don't have a copy of the report in its totality themselves as individual people who are involved. So thank you for that.
All right, Councillor Heed.
Yes. This report is not held in confidence, so they certainly can get a copy of this report, correct, Mayor?
Right.
And I think it's important because I can look and see several people here very concerned with the monies that they put into this and lost it. I've just got a question for our staff with respect to why did we give them an interim license to proceed when it was clear from the consumer agency in Victoria that they were not in compliance with what was required, yet we gave them an extension by a few months with respect to that. I'm absolutely for pulling their license. They're gone. And I agree with Councillor McNulty. There has to be some recourse for these people that lost the money. If there's no insurance, and you know, you may know the consumer protection better than I do. If there's no insurance where they'll be able to collect their money. So if you could just lead me in those two directions.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, when staff first became aware of the suspension and then the eventual cancellation of the consumer protection license, inclusive in that documentation was an appeals period of 30 days. Staff reached out to the business owner, and the business owner had expressed to staff they had the intention of reapplying for that consumer protection license. Unfortunately, that never occurred, with staff exercise discretion, allowing an appropriate period for that reapplication for the license. There were conditions that were set on that license. There were to be no new travel packages issued. In addition to that, there was an opportunity and a case was made to staff that there should be a period of time in which some form of restitution, repaying of packages could be done. It's alluded actually into the report as well. It's cited that there were the Consumer Protection Agency found that there were cases of payment made for travel packages, and those services were not rendered. So staff took that into account with the hopes that there would be a brick and mortar shop in which people could go in and make the case to have the money paid back. Staff conducted multiple inspections to determine that there were no new packages being handed out, inspections. And staff, at the behest of the the business owner who had requested an additional period to pay out those packages, granted an additional request. And then as we arrived today at this proceeding, staff determined there was an appropriate amount of time for that full restitution to have been made. And when weighing the risk to the public versus the appropriate amount of time of months to repay all those packages, to resubmit an application for a Consumer Protection BC license, staff determined even today there was no application made for a new license. So exhausting all of those extensions and appeals, determined that it was appropriate time now to bring forward a cancellation hearing.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully they can get some compensation back with respect to, can you tell me whether this company is currently registered under the BC Registry Services?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, I believe the company is registered, and I can pull up the title for you. On CNCL 61, you can see the annual report. Listing the name of the corporation and the incorporation number as well.
Okay. All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Your Worship, just a couple quick questions. One is Vegas Vacation doesn't operate anywhere else, so there's no other address where they have a secondary location. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then also under the director information for James Cham and Finney Fawn, who's the director and president, the address is provided in here. I'm assuming that's like maybe home address or delivery address, but not like another location where they're doing this type of business. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, that's correct. Staff are not aware of any other locations for operating into the business. This is the only business that's licensed in the city.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. I see on page 8 of the report that on January 13th, the Business License Department corresponded with the RCMP regarding this business. Was there any action taken by the RCMP?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, my understanding is the investigation is active and ongoing.
Okay. And then I see that the Consumer Protection BC suspended the license on December 23rd, 2025, and then again on January 9th, 2026. Why would they suspend it twice?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, in December, my understanding was the suspension, and then on January 9th was the formal cancellation.
Oh, I see. It was a two-stage process. Well, and we gave them a chance to provide funds to existing clients, but after 90 days, reports have shown that they have not followed through with that, or was there anybody that managed to get their money back?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, certainly there were concerns from the public and they came forward to staff. Understanding from the business owner, they made claims that they were in the process of doing that. Staff have no way of verifying that, however, and there was still a concern from the public, and there are a number of different examples of that concern, petitions, and really some alarming accusations that are made. I want to remind that those are still simply just accusations.
Well, I have absolutely no trouble canceling this business license. These are not good partners to have in the city of Richmond. Thank you.
All right, we'll call the question then on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And with that, I'll recess this meeting until later on in the afternoon. And I'll call to order the General Purposes Committee meeting. Sorry? Yeah, so for those members of the public who are concerned with this, the Vegas company, we have now, council has now canceled their business license, in addition to the Consumer Department having taken action against it as well. So if you want to get a full copy of the report, you can either go to the internet or members of staff are around. They're just outside the door and they can tell you how to get a copy of the report so you'll have full information. So for those of you who are making claim, good luck to you. And that will probably end the city's involvement in this matter as their license has been canceled. All right, so on the General Purposes Committee meeting, my suggestion is, because they're kind of companion reports, we'll do item 1 and 3 sequentially, and then go back to 2, and then 4, 5, and on, okay? So, yes, on the minutes. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. So first of all, the review of the low-end market rental contribution rates. So as I understand, staff, you just simply want to do a review, and you've kind of given us the background for the whole situation.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add to the report.
Okay. Someone want to move it? Moved and seconded. Councillor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm glad we're reviewing this. I think the low-end market rental, we're really going to have to determine the benefits of this overall and whether there's something more appropriately we can do with respect to this. And I believe we talked about the number of units so far, and aren't we up to around 800 since, around that?
That's correct.
Here's the problem I have with this right now. $75,000 to bring in a consultant to do it. Do we really need to do that? Like, you are very knowledgeable. You know, maybe we need to have a discussion with respect to this, but we're going to pay $75,000 for you to manage a consultant when you're probably the most experienced one with respect to this. I don't think this needs some continual analysis beyond what our qualified staff can do. So I like the idea that we're reviewing it. I like the idea with some of your reasons why we need to, especially with the environment we are in right now with some of our developers and builders. But I'll tell you, I'm not in favor of us going with an outside consultant to tell us what I believe our staff know.
All right, could we, rather than Mr. Moon answering that, I'm just looking at the report here. Maybe we could have Peter Russell or someone like that answer that question. Can our existing staff handle this, or do we need to get the consultant?
Mr. Chair, staff can do a lot to advance the work, in particular with builders. The funding that's proposed is for the purpose of carrying out kind of independent financial analysis. So if we're in a situation with builders and they're challenging the city's numbers in terms of the economic pro forma of the projects, we would have an ability to hire, with funding approved from council, to have that independently assessed. So that's the purpose.
But can we achieve the same thing just with our own staff?
Through the chair to, Mr. Chair, I do believe we would need access to external funding and external expertise to do the economic component.
Thanks, and thanks for that. Mayor, I'll tell you, I think we should just carry on, not spend the 75,000. If in fact we need this expertise to come in and do some financial analysis, I don't know, do we not believe the builders? Do we not believe the developers? We need to have someone come in and do it. If we need it at that point, then you can come back to council with your case as to why we need this external consultant. But at this time, I look around this room, and including when I look back here, is we should have the expertise to do something like this. So, again, if in fact you need that financial analysis, then I think then it's appropriate to come back to council with your case with respect to this. But as we move towards figuring out what we're going to do with the low-end market rental, I think we have qualified staff.
Mr. Craig, did you want to add to this?
Thank you. Through the chair, I would just add that the requirement for financial feasibility analysis is part of the provincial regulation, so it is a requirement imposed by provincial regulation.
External, to be done externally?
Through the chair, it does not specify within the regulations that it be external, but in terms of the feasibility and the skill set involved, urban land economics has traditionally been used as part of these assessments.
All right, let's see now, Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, thanks for the report. I also agree that it's timely to have a review of the Lemur program. We've heard quite a few comments from people about what can be done and what can't be done. And since 2007, as the report outlines, we've increased from 5% to 10% to 15% in 2021. And a number of units have been built. My understanding is that none have been built under the 15% requirement so far. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. The question I have for you in addition to that is, this is to request a review and bring back to council, so decisions aren't being made until then. The financial analysis, whoever does it, I think will be a crucial part of it, because that's always part of the argument that's put forward. Many factors have contributed to the current situation we're in: tariffs, interest rates, increased costs, all that kind of thing. What I'd like you to quickly comment on is what the forecast is in the industry for the next, 2-3 years. We had some boom times earlier, and now we're not having those times. So can you give an idea of what the best forecasts are? What are we in for in the next 2 to 3 years?
Just through the chair, to Councillor Hobbs, What I would say is that we're probably not best positioned at the city to advise specifically on that. We do understand from external sources, we're in a period where there's going to be a slowdown or a pause, if you will. When it comes back, if you will, I don't believe we can answer that question.
All right. Is it fair to say that the 15% requirement for Lemur is a stretch, or according to builders, is a difficult thing to achieve in today's market?
That's what we are hearing.
Okay, I'm hearing that too, so, all right, thank you.
On this issue of the consultant, if I understand at least part of what you're saying is that if you get pushback from the industry, you're going to have to be able to justify the approach and the calculations and whatever. So if you do get pushback, isn't it going to be too late to then get the consultant? I mean, don't you have to go in with the consultant and be able to defend and justify the conclusions?
Mr. Chair, I think the material impact would be just timing. If we were to come back to council for direction on funding for such a service, it would just add time that we would need to engage with the builders.
Okay, so you're not asking for the $75,000 for the consultant at this point?
That is the financial impact in the report.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are planning?
Yes,
to get
the
consultant.
budgetary impact is 75,000.
Okay.
Again, mainly earmarked for that service if it's needed.
And when will you know whether it's needed?
Mr. Chair, when we're engaging with the builders and it becomes a discussion back and forth on the true costs or the economic costs or the economic viability, that would be the time we would trigger such a need.
All right, and then the decision would be made without coming to council for that funding?
That's correct. If it's approved here, yeah.
That's, okay, that's the plan. All right, staff two, Mr. Irving.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to clarify, we do have grant funding in place for this, but certainly we can look at it and sharpen the pencil and make sure that the services provided are exactly what's needed.
All right. Councillor Day.
Thank you so much. When we have grant funding, I'd like to use it for things that we actually need. We've got a good head start on this. It, in the report says that in the past 5 years, the average number of apartments tied to issued building permits was 1,085. In 2025, this figure fell roughly by 40% to 653. We also know that Vancouver has increased its rents waiver levy, and Burnaby has lowered its housing contribution from 20% down to either 5 or 10%. So a lot of work is already being done. In the room today, we have a lot of experienced builders that have worked with UDI and other organizations, and it seems to me that the information is in the room, the expertise is in the room. I would like to request to the chair that he open up the floor to comments and questions by people with the experience to then. I won't be supporting this motion, certainly not the $75,000, because it's unnecessary when the expertise is at our fingertips. And I think it would serve council well to hear from some of the experts in the room, including staff.
My suggestion is if you want to do that, you make an amendment to the motion to put limits on the expenditure of monies. That if, for instance, if the expenditure for consulting services is to exceed X dollars, $25,000, that the matter come back to council. That would be one way to handle it. But I just think that we should find a way to take this one forward. Let's see, Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, thank you for the report. I also think that a review of the LEMUR program is due. We have to look at it for the next 10 years in the context of what all these new bills are going to do. It's changing everything to do with our inclusionary zoning, and also a lot of projects have started to turn towards rental anyway, just because the condo market is so flat. So we're starting to get more supply of rental if those can actually get off the ground with the pro formas working. I've always been a strong believer that what we actually needed to do right from the start, but I wasn't on council when the provincial government gave municipalities the authority to do rental tenure zoning, and we didn't really take advantage of that policy in Richmond. And if we had done that, it would have kept land values down. It would have encouraged the building of thousands of units of purpose-built rental. And when you have more supply of rental, the rents inevitably go down. Our lower end market rental rates are so close to market rent anyway that having more supply of market rental would have been probably more effective to getting us some better rental rates and rental vacancy in the city, rather than requiring a very small number of units in every market development to include affordable housing. But that was the council of the time's affordable housing strategy. It's definitely time to have a look at it. I think it's actually important to have the $75,000, not necessarily the whole thing, but I think it's important to have the ability for, you could come back to council and say, the developers say this, so they want us to do that. Can we now go verify that? But I think that it's in the report. I think we do have some excellent experts and builders in our community, and people that work with us and sit down and show us their pro formas and show us where they're losing money on the Lemur units. But there's hundreds of developers that could say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And that may be true, but it would be irresponsible of our staff to just take their word for it and not have an independent analysis and ensure that those numbers are accurate and looked at through an independent third party. So I'm fine with keeping the up to 75,000 in there, especially since we have grant funding towards that. I think I don't think that the taxpayer would appreciate us just taking the developer's word for it without double checking the numbers. I think it's important to have a view of it that way. So, thanks.
I take it there will be some consultation with the industry in the course of all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Councilor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks very much, Your Worship. I'll make a couple of comments. First of all, I don't think we need a consultant. This city spends too much time and too much money on consultants and devalues staff. And we've got staff who have the ability to deal with these kinds of things. You guys have the expertise. All you're going to do is give the information to the consultant. He's going to throw it back at you, and you're going to bring it here. So I don't need the consultant to do that. I'll work with you. We need to work with the development industry. I'm surprised some of the comments are on the table. And we need the development industry to work with us. I was chair of planning when we brought in 5%, and Ramon Cooner was the first person to give 3 homes on railway as part of Lemur. And we kept raising it because times were good and economics were good in the world and building was moving. Well, guess what? Give your head a shake. We got bankruptcies. We've got people that can't go to the bank to get things. Development industry's in trouble nationwide. And I think we need to give our head a shake. If we think we're going to have the glory that we've had before, it's not going to be. Builders are challenging. We're not having any building, and we need to deal with it in our way and get realistic on it. I believe the builders that we work with, and I don't care about other communities and what they do, are very honorable people, and they work with us, and their margin of profit is not that big in comparison. If you want to put up $100 million and make 7% on it, I think it'd be better to buy GICs at the bank. You'll do better on it. So I think, given, I'm so surprised Mr. Craig says we have to do it. If it's Bill 44, I suggest we send Mr. Eby the bill for $75,000 to help us along the way, so we're doing the right thing. And I'm not saying that facetiously, Your Worship. I'm saying that very sincerely. You know, we get some of these bills and they put all the people in the community under duress and not being able to come through. It's great for them to sit there and say, you got to do this, this, and this, but we do know our community. So I think we're at 18% in some areas where we're at Lemur, and we started with 5. And 5 was a good thing at the time, and we worked out it. And I think we need to work back and forth with the small builders. We have a blue ribbon committee, I believe, too, of experts for you to utilize and work with. And I think we can deal with the report as it comes forward. I really want to know what specifically we're going to do, though. We're going to do a final feasibility. Are we looking how we can get a certain number of lemur down the road? Are we looking the evaluation where we are? Just what are we doing in this report for 75,000? Or are we just looking at rates? Maybe we shouldn't have lemur at all, and we should increase density and get lower rates in, say, apartment buildings or whatever, or apartments that are geared to income or that kind of thing. And I'm not sure if that's going to be part of it, Your Worship, either.
Let's get their answer.
Yeah.
Through Your Worship to Councillor McNulty. Maybe just on the issue of the $75,000, I just would say that there has been a fair amount of work that's already gone into assessing the structure of the lemur program and supporting Bill 16 and the way that it's impacting our standard zones. And it is quite complex work. It's a residual land value analysis, which means it's looking at the value of land without lemur and the value of land with lemur. And when you're building lemur, how much can you build while realizing a marginal profit? So it is fairly complex, and it would be iterative with the development community.
Well, I think you have to understand we're in your corner. We're trying to do the right thing, so to make what we can do. So I think we need to look very, very carefully at what we do and bring that forward. But I think we need to consult greatly for Richmond. Thank you.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. I too agree with a lot of what's been said around the table. I think that, we took advantage of the good times. We increased our lemur requirement up to 15% on top of a 10% rental, on top of daycare and public art and a bunch of other things. So, we did take advantage of it. We do know we're going to have to change, likely. We could just blanket decide to drop it down to 0 overnight, but then we're going to get pushback from community groups and other people who rely on the lemur. We're going to hear from other groups that have already provided lemur and wonder why they're left holding on to these lemur units. So we're going to hear from a lot of people no matter which way we choose to go. And I believe that if we have the external validation and we have proper data and we can make good decisions with good data. I think that's what's important. And so I support staff's recommendation to get external consultants in. It makes sense, and it provides that level of independence that we're looking for on the numbers. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Day, did you want to suggest a limit on the expenditure to consultants?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to deny the $75K for a consultant for the reason that we still got.
No, just a minute. If you want to make an amendment to, we would add to that provided, something like provided that there be, that the services would be performed without a consultant. That's all.
However you want to word it. I believe that
Okay, is that moved and is it seconded?
Now, the reason I think this, we've already done quite a bit of work, and so has Vancouver and Burnaby. So I think we're pretty close to having a solution to this problem. I would like to see staff continue to work with the nonprofits because they are a valuable part of this conversation, and with the builders who have the expertise to know the difference. I want to make sure that the rental projects move forward because seeing 40% less apartments being built last year is a travesty. We cannot allow that to happen.
All right, so we're on the amendment. All I'm going to say is comments have been made that we should send the bill to Mr. Eby, but this is provincial funding, so in fact, we have sent the bill to Mr. Eby. So, on the amendment, I'll call Councillor Glanders, did you have something further on the amendment?
Can you give a clarity on what you mean by its provincial funding? So the grant towards this
Tell
expense?
us about the grant.
Mr. Chair, there's, with the housing bills, there was a community capacity funding, I believe the title was. And that was funding for cities independent, like just Richmond and other cities had their own funding to implement the new housing bills, which included economic analysis, a lot of public engagement, these kind of activities.
So it's essentially free money from the province.
Councillor Heed, she's got the floor.
It's money that we wouldn't otherwise have to spend. And would it be, if this the amendment doesn't go through, could you not come to us and show us exactly what you needed to use the consultant for so that we can have a breakdown of how the money was spent? So,
We can get more information between now and council next week.
okay.
So that's when they could do it. All right, Councillor Heed, on the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just to clarify, yes, there's money coming from different levels of government. That money could also be utilized for other things, not necessarily this one. So I'm in support of the amendment. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call the question on the amendment to delete the notion that we're going to use consultants. All those in favor? Those opposed? Let's see now. So it's Councillor Hobbs, Councillor Liu, and the mayor opposed. So that is carried. All right. So then back to the main motion. We'll call the question then. And by the way, if you're having problems and you need the consultants, you can come back to council and request, the dispensation. So all those in favor? Those opposed? So that's carried. Thank you, staff. Now we go on to number 3, which is the companion report talking about the density bonuses and the inclusionary zoning requirements. So do you want to tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, to the chair, I'll ask Mr. D'Souza just to provide a very brief summary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this report is to respond to provincial legislative changes under Bill 16 related to density bonus and inclusionary zoning, including the provincial requirement to bring existing density bonus bylaws into compliance by June 30th, 2026. In order to comply with provincial requirements, staff recommend making the necessary amendments to retain density bonus in existing small-scale multi-unit housing zones, including maintaining the existing cash in lieu rate and establishing a new reserve as required by provincial legislation. The report also proposes to remove density bonus in other existing standard and mixed-use zones to comply with these requirements. These zones generally permit lower densities than those contemplated in the city's updated official community plan and therefore are unlikely to be used for future development. The recommended approach preserves the city's ability to continue securing affordable housing and amenities through rezoning. It also protects existing and approved development from nonconformity through site-specific density provisions, and previously secured affordable housing and amenities remain protected through existing legal agreements registered on title. Overall, the recommended approach provides an opportunity to review the city's LEMUR contribution rates before new standard zones are prepared. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Appreciate you've gone through it very quickly and also for the public. What are we going to lose by these things? We keep adopting these bills as a previous discussion, and we're losing some things along the way. And in Richmond, I'm going to talk about Richmond, our own backyard. And I forget what Vancouver and Burnaby and others do. So what are we losing by taking this forward because we have to do it?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, we really lose the ability to use density bonusing within the city center area. That's based on provincial legislation. So therefore, based on the deadlines here, we have to remove density bonusing from the zones that are within the city center. We are also removing it outside the city center on those other remaining zones because we have to do financial feasibility analysis for those areas. And with the direction from council to review the LEMUR rates, we're going to use that to base what those inclusionary zones may be in the future.
What other public amenities are we losing? Because we have public art, we have parks, we have various things.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, in some situations, we're able to retain those additional levies for public amenities. We also have, through the OCP update, a complete village overlay that will allow us to negotiate for amenities in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My questions pertain to staff recommendation number 2, that the Affordable Density Benefit Reserve Fund establish. So just lead me through it. The way it is right now is the developer sets aside a percentage for low-end market rental, okay? What is their option to contribute now to the fund?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, it's typically for any project that less than 60 units would pay a cash in lieu rate, and that would be applied to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund, which includes capital and operating costs, whereas the provincial legislation requires a reserve fund for capital costs only.
So what are we looking for here with this reserve fund under the bylaw 10761?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that reserve fund will just be for the small-scale multi-unit housing density bonus, which really will only bring in a limited amount of dollars at this point.
So I have this right, if someone's building a complex over 60 units, they do not have the ability, in lieu of building the lemur, to contribute a percentage equated to finance this fund?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that's correct. They would be required to build lemur units. In some situations, there is negotiated cash in lieu rates, but in most cases, it would be to build.
Do we ever do it on a large-scale project, or is it always done just on the, and what you're proposing here is this?
Well, through the chair to Councillor Heed, what we're proposing here is there would be an option for cash in lieu or versus build, whereas our current policy is to build.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for the report. Provincial housing bills, again, there really is no choice with this, right? This is Bill 16. We're required by law to have something done by June 30th. One size fits all again, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, that's correct.
Okay. Kind of touched on it, but if you can just quickly comment on the upside downside of this. To me, when I read through it, it seems quite bureaucratic, another number of steps involved. But I also understand Bill 16 as an attempt to basically clean up some of the mess created by Bill 44, which was also one size fits all. So upside, downside.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, I'm not sure if there's an upside, but this report, of course, is to comply with provincial legislation, which it does. Like I mentioned before, it does remove density bonusing within TOA because we can't use that tool anymore. And that we're also removing it outside the city center because of the financial feasibility requirements. And we'll be reviewing the LEMA rates to determine what that inclusionary zoning rate should be for affordable housing. As far as the downside, yes, density bonusing was a tool that we used successfully for many, many years to secure affordable housing and amenities. The province has offered this inclusionary zoning tool to be a replacement, which we need to review a bit further because it is essentially a requirement on how many affordable housing units need to be built. So that needs to be reviewed under financial feasibility analysis. And at the moment, this report essentially, nothing is really lost through this report and the recommendations. We still have the ability to secure affordable housing through the rezoning process.
Right, and just a couple more through the chair. So the TOAs, removing density bonusing from those, I understand. We're applying it citywide, which we don't have to do, but we are for the reasons you just mentioned. Richmond is pretty unique in terms of cities in Metro Vancouver because of the water table and the height restrictions. So the density bonusing did work for us. Did the province, as far as you know, give any consideration to the uniqueness of our situation? We're not Burnaby, we just can't throw on 20 more stories.
Mm-hmm. Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, no. This has been a one-size-fits-all approach to all the bills, and it's been very difficult to apply in the Richmond situation, as you mentioned, due to some of these unique constraints that we have.
And I do recognize Bill 16 is, as mentioned, an effort to address some of the lack of attention to detail in Bill 44 and maybe 47. But What has been the industry reaction to Bill 16? Is it something seen as kind of benign, trying to fix problems that exist from 44, or what's the reaction?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. First off, yes, Bill 16 was in reaction to Bill 44 and 47 when they were first introduced, so it kind of cleaned it up a little bit, added some new tools. Industry reaction, and I recognize there's a number of industry representatives in the audience today, so hopefully they agree with what I'm assuming is their reaction. I think right now they're supportive in principle but cautious. However, the feeling that we've had, at least with industry consultation, is they just want to make sure that everything is transparent, clear, and that's financially workable. So these tools can work towards that. So I would say that right now it's a kind of a wait and see approach to see how these tools are implemented.
Sure, and I guess one thing that it does also is it puts some goalposts in place that hopefully won't be moved by the provincial government too soon. That's rhetorical. Just on the reserve, and my last question through the chair, with the new reserve fund, when I read the report, I was curious and wondering why we need a new reserve fund. And you mentioned that it's going to be a minimum amount of dollars that go into that. So is it a legislative requirement the way it's worded? Because we do have the affordable housing reserve. Yeah. And so it did just cross my mind why we wouldn't be able to use one reserve for the same purpose.
Sure. Well, so through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, the requirement for the reserve fund in the provincial legislation is for capital costs only. Currently, our affordable housing reserve fund also includes a percentage for operating costs in addition to capital costs. So therefore, a new reserve fund needs to be created for this situation.
Okay. Do you think that was done with intent? Or is that just is it just an accidental result of the legislation?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, speculating a bit, but I think it was once again a bit of a one-size-fits-all approach to require this reserve fund for capital costs only, not looking at other examples throughout the province that may have set up such a reserve fund that certainly some operating costs should be included. That analysis was never done locally with the province.
Okay, thanks. I'll be supporting the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Gillanders.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to staff. Yeah, thanks for the report, and though the unfortunate reasons we have to do this, I agree with the sort of sense of frustration I was getting from Councillor Hobbs, just about the one-size-fits-all, just so that, you know, the public knows on GP 29, overall, these legislative changes effectively dismantle the city's well-defined and transparent density bonus framework in the city center, which has successfully been used to secure affordable housing and community amenities. You know, this density bonusing was brought in 1993, and we've taken advantage of it. And it's like just bringing something in to fix something that wasn't broken in the city and making it more difficult for us to secure amenities. As you say, it was a one-size-fits-all, but I'm just curious, and sorry if you've already answered this before, like in the past, I don't know if we sent letters, I think we probably did, but did we send a letter saying, you know, how is it fair that we have no ability to exceed the prescribed minimum density when we can't do a massive hole in the ground in 50 stories?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, we did actually lobby the province a year ago to extend this deadline. It used to be June 30th, 2025. Through that report and a letter writing to the province, we did explain how we were challenged by this bill. We also have some staff-to-staff meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks to talk about the bills and how they impact us, and we intend to voice our concerns. So it's kind of ongoing.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Because it really is unfair, because it's actually giving those other municipalities the ability to use the tool. And we have no ability to use it anymore. It's completely unfair to our municipality. And it's just going to cause our taxes to have to go up to build the amenities that we need. But it's complicating it with the reserve fund and everything else. Just a question about the schmooze. So we're saying, you know, to get the 6th unit would have to be affordable housing, or we can allow up to 6 with that. Have we seen a single application for that? Is anybody going to do 6 units?
Through the chair to Council Glanders, there's actually one application.
Okay.
In Hamilton, yeah. And they're offering cash in lieu for that 6
neat.
unit. Yeah, so there's one. And there, I would expect there'd be limited numbers in the future, but.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if we've got more than 10 in the whole city. Okay, but when it comes to townhouses, so I'm sure we've all noticed that the way we're building our townhouses now, kind of walled off from the neighborhood. It's maximum density. There's very little outdoor amenity space. And I'm sure that a lot of this is to compensate for the LEMA requirements. So if we're not going to have those anymore, would we be able to, and that wouldn't be covered in this report, but look at prescribing better outdoor amenity space to these townhouses, making them more livable, and sort of, since they don't have to provide 7 LEMA units anymore, they could have, you know, make a little more money, but also have a better amenity space, like the old developments we used to see?
Through the chair to Councilor Glanders, it's probably a little bit beyond the scope
Yeah.
of this report, but certainly related to the LEMA review. I think those kind of offsets could be considered when we're doing the financial feasibility analysis.
Okay, thanks.
Seems to me on that point you make that we should have a third item on the resolution that we seek a meeting with the Minister of Housing at UBCM to discuss these issues. The density bonusing, and all the issues here. Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only question I have is in regards to the Bill 16, so density bonus inclusionary zoning requirements, so attachment 1. And on the back, under exemptions, for density bonus, it mentions the one bullet point I'm asking about is density bonus cannot be used to secure an amenity already covered by an amenity cost charge, so the ACC. So our city, I'm not sure the exact wording of it, but kind of didn't freeze it. We froze the DCC rate, but we stalled the start of ACC program. So what would be different in a municipality that didn't do that? Is that another tool that they would have to get funding to provide the amenities? But here in Richmond, we don't have that tool, and that was a choice made by council?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, you're correct. Recently, council made a decision to put off consideration of new amenity cost charges for, I believe, a year. So that will be revisited. Amenity cost charges could include, say, a childcare center. And so therefore, we could not collect, if an ACC bylaw was set up and for childcare, we wouldn't be able to collect a density bonusing for childcare. And so just can't, it just basically prevents double dipping.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for the report. So when I'm reading this, proposed and existing cash in lieu rate is $12 a square foot of total buildable if you're getting the 6th unit. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Liu, that's correct.
Okay. So the amenity we're getting out of the SMU is affordable housing. The point of the SMU was supposed to be more affordable housing. So it almost flies in the face of it to charge them an affordable housing fee if they get to the 6th unit. So it's a bit of a trade-off, right? Especially as we're looking at the whole LEMA thing in the first place. So, you know, it seems challenging that we're going to layer on costs on a small-scale multi-unit sixplex, essentially, in order to provide more affordable housing, when the whole point of that was that. So I'm having trouble getting behind this.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, one thing perhaps I can clarify here is that Bill 44, SHMU, allowed the option for municipalities to consider that 6th unit as an affordable housing unit. And so we had a choice of either requiring it or cash in lieu. And so in this case, we're saying if you're considering a 6th unit, the proposal is that it would be an affordable housing unit or you pay a cash in lieu. And the cash in lieu amount is really, I would say, on the lower end and considered across the city, knowing that that rate could vary from high to low. So it's on the lower end.
Okay. And in other municipalities, when they have affordable housing, they usually just have a 20-year term on them, whereas we go in perpetuity. So if we factored that into the additional cost, then it layers onto the building of the property.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, I don't believe that specific analysis has been considered. I think we would be looking at perpetuity in most cases rather than 20 years. That certainly is something that could be factored in. Once again, with the SHMU, it's an option. So it's not a requirement. They have to provide You could build 5 units or 4 units, but you don't have to do that 6 unit if you weren't prepared to pay for the cash in lieu or the affordable housing, or build an affordable housing unit.
Okay, but seeing as we've also allowed them to stratify the whole thing, so now if you did build the 6 unit, it's stratified. Now it's this weird orphan thing on your property. So if everybody has a separate strata on it and you've got this weird affordable housing unit that's the 6th guy, now what? Like, it almost makes sense if it had a term limit on it, that it would phase out. So now you've sort of done your good deed for the world and 20 years of affordable housing there. But now at the end of that, you can break it up, sell it off, improve the whole property, because obviously you're going to have to be charging strata fees to people. You know, it's going to have to work out accordingly. I'm just wondering if we're creating long-term bureaucracy and perpetuity that's just going to sit on this and give people a headache in 20 years from now.
Through the chair to Councilor Liu, I would imagine in most situations, people will pay cash in lieu if they wish to have that 6 unit, rather than building it. As you mentioned, managing it could be problematic. We would have a housing agreement, obviously, on title that would ensure that that stays as an affordable housing unit. But yes, there would be more work to manage just 1 unit compared to a complex.
There you go.
Because I think you're going to be rev limited on how big that 6th unit is going to be able to be anyway, right? So it is almost de facto going to be your studio space. It is going to be affordable housing anyway. So we're almost shooting ourselves in the foot by preventing people from building it and just renting it out in general. I think we should scrap the whole $12, encourage people to build that small studio space and rent it out. They're not going to get as much for it. The person renting it knows they're not going to be able to find any parking. So it's going to go to somebody who truly needs that space, and we're actually going to get it built versus, you know, $12 into affordable housing, then it's going to eventually, maybe it gets built, maybe it doesn't. We're going into some rough times right now, so that's my opinion. I think we should not charge on it and encourage people to build that small extra unit.
All right, can I have a motion including that third one about discussing this with the minister at UBCM? So it's moved and seconded. Further discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Going back to number 2, development of the 4 city-owned sites for affordable housing, the community engagement program. Anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay, someone want to move it? So that's moved and seconded. We've got some speakers here. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So we're going to consult with the public. Are we also going to consult with the nonprofits and BC Housing?
Yes, through the chair, absolutely.
Good,
Yes.
good. Because, I mean, if we could get some buy-in from BC Housing or you know, a church group or nonprofit group, then I think there'd be even more support from the public. Because, I mean, they want to know that if this is going to be built near them, that it's going to be well-managed. And so I wonder if we shouldn't do it in that order, you know, try to see if we can't find some secure funding from BC Housing or other organizations and then go out to the public. Any thoughts on that?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the challenge there would be what are you consulting on, or who do you have a partner? So we have to, for what purpose, I mean. So we need to essentially get it to rezoning, this being the first step to consult.
Right.
So then when we bring the rezoning consideration back for council, that would be the time we can look at those types of opportunities.
So could you allude, as you do the public consultation, that in the past, we've often had a good partner, i.e. this organization or BC Housing, and that we would be looking for that as we move forward?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the report alludes to, or speaks to the opportunity with Build Canada Homes.
Yeah.
So that would be a primary focus to get funding from them.
So good, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the key aspect of this is Build Canada Homes, correct? That's where we're looking for the bulk of the funding in order for us to do this.
Correct.
Not BC Housing.
Currently, there is no funding from BC Housing. We'll see in future budgets, but currently the focus is Build Canada Homes.
Build Canada, and we've got to have it shovel-ready in a matter of a year?
Yes, shovel readiness, if you apply, you'd have to have, be in construction within 12 months.
Okay, so I guess when I look at this, and, I'm in favor of utilizing our properties as much as we can, but we're only talking about 260 homes. That's it. That's not much, because we've got these 4 properties here, and the big one being the Blundell and Number 3 Road, the 7-Eleven lot, and I believe you're only looking at going 5 stories. And and I know you know that, both of you know that area there, and you see that there's the development to the south of it. There's also the rental complex, which is to the east of it, that kind of wraps around, and who knows what they're going to be doing with that. I just think maybe this isn't part of what you want to do. Maybe this is something we can do later, is we may want to look at increasing the amount of units, even at that one. I think your large one here you have is on Westminster Highway. Is that correct? That's where you have 210 units. But when we look at Blundell and Number 3 Road, I think you're talking about, 35 units. When you think of what you could do at that location, and, realizing, across the street is the old Husky station, who knows what's going to happen there, and the Chevron station. I just think, I'm in favor of going out there consulting, but I just think we're leaving the number of units short on what we actually could accomplish here. So those are just my comments. I don't know if you have any response or.
Through the chair to council, the current approach is looking at the OCP, but certainly council has full authority to look at alternatives than the OCP. And we would be engaging at a second stage, subject to council approval, on form and character. So that would be the case where we might, if council is in that position, look at larger buildings.
Thank you.
Councilor McNulty?
Yeah, thanks very much. A good report. I appreciate having them, but I have to agree with Councillor Heed. I think, again, we're selling ourselves very short on a goal of 260 units of affordable on 4, probably the prime properties in Richmond. If we wanted to put them on the market tomorrow, it'd be sold before you get out of this room, to be building something much more higher in terms of density and what have you. I'd like staff to relook at the numbers and the maximum heights. For example, when we look at Sexsmith, we're going to go 8 stories. How many stories are the apartments a block away? Are they 8 stories?
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, you're referring to the Sexsmith.
Behind Aberdeen Park.
Yes, correct. So
what are they?
That
10, 12?
I believe they're up to 14 or 15 stories.
And we're going 8 or 6?
Yes, the situation there relates to construction materials. So if you go to anything above 6, you're looking at concrete, which becomes very expensive.
However, I think we should be looking at the long term then in terms of the number of units. And we can have all the excuses we want to put in blocks in front of us, but I think we have to allow the potential. The only thing we own, if we can, is the airspace. And if we can go up to a maximum, it's like over in Spires Road, we should be having towers over there instead of townhomes. So I from that point of view, and I look at the one in Steveston, where we're gonna put 100 units down there on that property. I don't know, good luck, whatever council is gonna approve that one. You're on your own. That's half, almost half of what we wanna get. So 40-some%. So I think we need to, and I know I'm nitpicking at the moment, not criticizing, I'm just expressing my points of view. I think we look at these for maximum density. They don't make any more land. The city doesn't have, look at our land inventory, what we do own. We don't have any more land of this prime nature to build prime properties. If we want affordable housing or whatever it is, let's, I hate to use the word, but let's exploit our wealth and put as many units in as we can that are good quality units. So anyhow, I just leave that. I will support it. I like who you're consulting with, but I also like to think that we can, I know it's Canada built, but we can also look to other partners out there as well. You remember what we did with Kiwanis, and Your Worship, you were part of that. before many were on council. They built this one, they got two. They built all three. We got 296 units. I don't know what can be done, but I think we should be looking at that as well, because it worked out only for the better. Thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, thanks for the report, and it's great to see us moving forward with our city-owned land, and makes sense that we need to consult. Just put it out there, because the last thing we want to do is put things forward for a rezoning, and then the public saying, why didn't you consult us? So we want to let them know that we're asking what people want, and I think the more we talk about it with our residents, the more we're going to hear from most people what a huge issue affordable housing is, and they're going to be thrilled that we are trying to advance affordable housing on city-owned land. I was also looking at the numbers and the heights. Of course, maybe you could prepare some sort of a memo or something for Monday that shows the difference in the cost. So if we were to do a 12-story concrete affordable housing, just how different the numbers are compared to a 5-story wood frame, because I just don't know if it's possible, right? It's a nice idea, but I don't know if it's possible. You see it in some of the other communities, an all rental building, but it's because they can do 30 stories to make up for it, not 12, right? So I think it'd be helpful for council to see that. On GP 17, I was also looking at why would it only be 5 stories on 3 Road, but 6 stories on Moncton? I don't think any Steveston people are going to go for 6 stories. Do we have anything else that's 6 stories on Moncton? What if you were saying it had to do with the OCP? We are allowing 6 stories on Moncton, but only 5 stories on 3 in Blundell?
Do you have that information?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Glanders. The Moncton site, the OCP designation is local village tier 1, which allows for the 6 stories.
Okay.
For the 2 other sites you mentioned, their OCP designations are slightly different. So the 101, oh sorry, that's the other one. Well, I'll just list them all. The 10171 number 2 road site has an OCP designation, arterial connector tier 1. Same with the 23560 Westminster. And the 8000 number 3 road OCP designation is arterial connector tier 2. So bottom line is the underlying OCP designation allows for, or points to different height allowances. And that's where we based our modeling after.
Yeah, and it is a small site and there's houses nearby it, but at least the spot right on the corner could be possibly 6 and then go down towards 5. So you can get a couple more units in there. But yeah, we are limited, to what we can build. It's affordable. On the Sexsmith, the Aberdeen residences, I'm looking at this 210. Now, I swear when this first came forward, it was something more like 230.
The chair to Councillor Glanders, yeah.
230 to 260.
Yeah, because the building has been, we're looking at designs right now for the rezoning application.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think that the number is 210, but it's just how you look at the open space requirements on site and building height, these kind of factor in. But yeah, I think the 210 is the current estimate.
Sort of the latest, so it's just been sort of changing. Now, when you mention how, when we had BC Housing as a partner on this one, there were deeply subsidized units, rent geared to income, a real variety. And so now if we're going after this federal funding, the levels of affordability are not going to be the same. Can you give some examples on just how different they're going to be? Is there going to be any geared to income units or deep subsidy, or would it just be all lemur?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Glanders, the report speaks to that. So currently what we estimate it would look like, pending any changes from federal funding, without operating funding, it kind of will look like a lemur building, say 100% units at 10% below. Or the report also identifies the BC Builds program, which you have 20% below market, but then the rest are market rental. So those are our levers, if you will, to make it self-sufficient as a building.
Right.
But, certainly if there's any new funding or if BC Build Canada Homes or BC Housing change their parameters,
Right.
then we would certainly seek opportunities to get operating funding.
So we'd get something shovel-ready, use the capital that we can to get it built, and then hope that possibly there'd be new operating funding from BC Housing for some deep subsidy or through the nonprofits and stuff, and then we could adjust it later.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Just on that last point first, the Sexsmith Road properties, that would kind of apply to that description you gave there, where we could go up to 8 stories according to the OCP designation. We're only aiming for 6 because that's more the affordable way to build it. But if we had other funding sources, we could go up to 8, right? Because the Polygon Talisman to the east is much higher than 8.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor, it's concrete structure. So it is, they're going to maximize the height allocation they have under the zoning. In this case, I think we'll assess it, we always do. But I think when the per unit cost for 8-story would be effectively concrete construction, that square footage per unit will go a lot higher.
So if there's funding sources out there, like BC Housing would want us to go to a higher density there and would provide the funding.
Under the Community Housing Fund for the Aberdeen site, when we were planning it in discussion with BC Housing, they were only supporting a 6-story building based on cost as well.
Thanks. My other question is on the Hamilton site, the Westminster Road, on page GP 23. So it highlights in your site context a lot of constraints, including setback from the Highway 91A, setback from Westminster Highway, and walkway enhancements. I'm just curious on the map that's provided here, is the polygon that's highlighted, is that the property border, or does the property actually go closer to Highway 91A?
Through the chair to Councilor Wolf, that is the property boundary line.
Okay, so it looks like there's a large buffer in between our property and the highway. What ability do we have to encourage the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to put up those solid kind of fences that they put up along their highways and like those concrete taller fences? Have we had success recently? Because I know a number of people who live in Hamilton have been asking and knowing that the city can't put up those fences, they go to the ministry, but to no avail. And also related to that, what likelihood can we have the ministry plant large coniferous trees in their stretch in that area to buffer the sound and air pollution coming from the constant use of the highway?
Through the chair to Councilor Wolf, those are things we can investigate with the province.
Okay, yeah, because I'll just mention, there's other areas in Hamilton where we've had very limited success, and it ends up having to come from using habitat compensation when ESAs get developed on. But as we know from council last week, we just removed habitat compensation in Hamilton, so we're left with even less ability to provide the greenery, the sound barrier, the pollution reduction in our community, yet we're going to populate this area. So it's unfortunate.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, yeah, a lot of questions have been answered. I just want to emphasize a couple things. And one, this report is seeking approval for initial community engagement. There's a table 2 in there. And I think it's important as a first step of engagement because listening to our communities, listening to the neighborhoods, listening to the neighbors is going to be a really important part of this. We've seen people come in regarding different projects that, in their opinion, and we might share that opinion, don't fit in with the neighborhood. So that'll be a real challenge, I think, and it's been mentioned around the table, but it is important to listen to those views. The current situation, the current reality check, we've touched on it, but I just want to emphasize it. With BC Housing, no capital funding, no operating funding. With Canada Builds, that's quite a far way down the road, I think, until we work our way through this process. But I just want you to comment on the operational funding that seems to be drying up. Because if you don't have operational funding, that really limits what you can do in terms of different types of affordable housing. And that means they have to be sustainable. So they have to generate the revenue that they need to sustain themselves and operate. So an example of that, and I think a couple have been mentioned around the table, but an example of that in Richmond would be what?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, I think an example of self-sustaining buildings, I'm thinking of Kiwanis would be an example of self-sustaining buildings. The recently built Rio Vista by Pathways has subsidies for 35 years. One comment I'd make, it's important to get a project built, and then once it's built, typically what you'll see is the units get occupied very quickly, and then there's low turnover rates. In that case, your rents won't grow as per the market. So very quickly, within a period of time, 5 to 20 years per se, they end up being below market. So it becomes a bit more affordable with low turnover that typically happens to this type of building. So you're not getting a subsidy, but over time, it gets more affordable.
Right. I just think it's an important piece for us to remember as we go forward that the sustainability of the project is going to be accomplished without the ongoing operational funding that we've seen in some other projects. And, you know, maybe optimistically that will change at some point, 2 or 3 years down the road, but it hasn't yet. So thanks for the report, and I'll be supporting it.
Yeah, and I'll just conclude by observing, we have to consult with the neighborhoods and talk to them about it and stay away from anything that is going to cause some kind of an overreaction, which we have seen in the past. I think that a good example of that is going 6 stories on Moncton. I'll be interested to hear from the good citizens of Steveston as to what they think of that, because I think what was their reaction at the end of south end of number 2 road when they proposed 6 stories? Wasn't exactly warmly welcomed. So, and that's just an example. Sorry? So anyway, but I'll certainly support consultation in this way. The motion's on the floor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Brings us over to number 4, the Steveston area parking study. Sun Alley, anything to add to your report?
Your Worship, I do have just a few points to highlight from the staff report. Real quick, the report summarizes the findings of a comprehensive parking study that looked at all the parking facilities within a 5-minute walk of the Steveston town site. The study area encompassed over 1,930 parking spaces and found that the overall parking utilization in the area is 64%, meaning that 700 parking spaces are available even during the summer peak periods. The report recommends 3 actions to improve parking access and management, which are to improve signage to better guide visitors to the public parking facilities, to convert some of the public stalls near the commercial areas to 3-hour time-limited parking, which will help to increase turnover, and to consult with residents on a possible permit parking program to help manage spillover of parking in surrounding neighborhoods. And with that, staff are available to answer any questions.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You refer to this, and it's in here. There's also a refer on Public Works, and I'm just wondering if we're going to blend those 2 together, or we're going to keep them separate. And the Public Works one is in relation to resident parking permits in Steveston area per se.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, staff are recommending to get going on the consultation regarding the permit parking program in Steveston, because that's what we heard through this study. If council would wish us to converge both processes, we can certainly do that. The timing may be that they both arrive to you for consideration around the same time, but we were planning and recommending to start the process with the Steveston area residents.
Well, I guess if we're talking about Steveston and we're talking about the visitor park and we're talking about all of that, I don't see any value of keeping them separate. I see the value of bringing them together and coming up with whatever we're going to at the same time, because it all relates to that particular area.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, yes, we can certainly do that. The larger study will inform the recommendations of the Steveston parking permit pilot potentially as well. So that was, we just didn't want to delay starting the engagement with the public because we have heard through this parking study that they are interested in such a program.
Could be the same people, thank you.
Well, you're not ready with your larger omnibus report, are you?
Through the chair, that's a more comprehensive citywide program, and we've been asked to look at different options and strategies around permit parking. The target.
Presumably that's months away, right?
Through the chair, we're planning to bring that back at the end of this year.
Right.
Yeah.
My point being is this recommendation is to do this now. We'll go
Yes,
to-
Your Worship.
We'll go to Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, through you to staff. Yeah, thanks for the report. I agree with the recommendations, especially, well, all of them, but just talking with the signage briefly, like I was speaking to a business owner recently, and she was saying it's just getting worse and worse. Her clients have nowhere to park. And I mentioned the angled parking on Chatham. And I said, well, that's made a huge difference. And they didn't even know about it. So we got to kind of get that message out there where the spots are, like you say. The other one that I think it kind of relates to the complaints we're getting on Bayview east of One Road. So people don't want to park in that diamond lot, right? So the one close to the boardwalk. People look in that fairly large little free one, and the diamond lot will be empty. And then the people are going down Bayview looking for a free spot, parking in front of people's houses because they don't want to pay for parking. But under the Imperial Landing buildings are a couple of very large parkades. And those are free for the most part, from what I think I understand. Because I've gone in there and the signage is very confusing. So it says Ani and it says parking, there's EV stalls there, but it doesn't show anywhere where you're supposed to pay. So are we gonna have signage that explains those lots? And are those included as what you explained, and there are spots available that people don't know about?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, those parking lots on the south side of Bayview and the parkade, those are privately operated and are paid parking. We did hear that there is some confusion regarding the mechanism. Some of them are just app-based and you need a smartphone and there's not a meter. So staff will continue to engage with those operators to make that more clear to potential users. There is the two city lots just further east on Bayview Street as well that we're recommending to add signage, that they are available for 3-hour parking. They are free to the public, because we did hear some survey respondents indicate that they weren't aware that those parking spaces are publicly available as well.
Right, yeah, and when it comes to the operating of the paid spots, so like the diamond lots, for example, I don't know what they're doing with the upgrading the machines, making sure they're working properly, but I've been there and they're just not working properly, and people are frustrated. It's just, this is kind of beyond the scope of this, but.
Listen, our time is getting very short. We got a public hearing in 10 minutes. I'm going to ask you to keep your comments relevant and to the point on the report.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
We might have to just table it and get back to it, because my comments are relevant. Are we looking, have we ever looked at buying, purchasing any of those diamond lots and just have uniform parking across all of Steveston? Because it's a real problem. Like, we're saying that there are spots, but people don't want to use them, and they're parking in front of people's houses. So if they were all just the same 3-hour parking, I don't know if the city's ever looked at that.
Through your worship, to Councillor Galanders, they are private property. Most of those diamond lots are owned or operated at least by Steveston Harbor Authority. It is a business decision for them to operate it as pay. There is, what we learned from the study findings, is that there is on-site parking in the core area where businesses have free parking. However, it's not signed very well to let the public know that it's available for customers, or they're assigned for a specific business that may be closed at certain times. So we're proposing to engage and unlock the potential of that free parking for customers. That would be an additional 200 parking spaces, because right now that parking has very low utilization.
We've got to go to the next speakers. Please keep all the questions and the answers short. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Thanks for the report. Regarding the recommendations, I'll be supporting them. The signage will be helpful. The parking on east of One Road will be good. Removing the taxi stand makes sense. On the permit parking, cautionary tale, I think, with this. I don't know if people know exactly what they're signing up for, if it's 365, 7 days a week type of thing, because you have businesses that depend on that parking in the neighborhoods for their clients to park. You have people having parties, having guests over. If it's permit parking, you might not be able to park there. So that'll be an interesting piece of consultation. Public streets, public parking, so it's a debate there. And it's not 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's usually on busy weekends. Couple quick questions. The rates in the private parking are high. I know it's private property. I know it's Steveston Harbor Authority, but have we even had a conversation with them about it? Because it's a problem for people going in there. And the last thing I just want to ask is the Steveston Merchants Association arranged for some parking in the Harbor Authority parking lots by the Gulf of Georgia to the north. Is that too soon to know if that has any measurable impact on the parking situation?
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, I believe that commenced May 1st, if I'm not mistaken, and it's converting those parking spaces to reserve parking for employees of the Steveston area to purchase a permit. Right now, the utilization that we've measured is low, but we'll continue to monitor that. So it hasn't had a material difference at this point in time, but we'll see what the uptake is as we go forward.
Good idea, good partnership. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty, real quick.
I think we got to look at our metrics with 95% of respondents don't use paid parking. I think it's a very important one. They don't want to pay and they don't want to walk. I'm happy to see that the Steveston Harbor Authority has worked something out. That's $2 a day, 20 working days, $40, $2 a day to park your car and walk to work. It's a fixed amount. Have they, in your discussion, to have a fixed amount for the public, like O'Connor? You go into O'Connor, $4, it goes in there, you walk into O'Connor, everybody pays $4. I think something we could use. But that, as opposed to an hourly rate, it might be, people will use it a little bit better, but there has to be very adequate signage. Signage is key. And what you've got. Gary Point Park, okay, how many units there, and what does, how long can you park there?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, I believe that has over 100 stalls, and there is a 3-hour time limit in the park as well.
Well, it might be something we could look at, because from Gary Point Park down Fisherman's Walk to Steveston's quite a nice thing, and it might be encouraging for tourists to park there, because at the moment, guess what, it's free. So I think it's something we can use, get 100 spots, and I think that signage should be there. If you have paid parking here, free parking down there, just like in O'Connor. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wolf, real quick.
Yeah, I've commented on the question. When former Councillor Steves switched from driving to Steveston to City Hall and would take the bus, he would say how great it was, how empty it was. And that relates to the letter we just received from Urgent Ma, saying that it's so underutilized, the transit to Steveston. So we have on table his letter, but I'm just curious, have staff responded, and if, or when staff responds, if we could get a copy of that, and also to include in the action plans the better signage and advertisements for the transit use, include the conversations with the stakeholders around potential advertisements, incentives for transit users, and also improving some of the wayfinding, because there was just a whole bunch of, as was mentioned, wayfinding enhancements in Steveston, but very little, if any, connect to improving the transit.
Through your worship, we haven't responded yet. We've reviewed the correspondence on table, and certainly we'll be sharing that with TransLink as it's under their purview in terms of the operation. What I can say is that we do see 2,000 passengers a day taking the bus to and from Steveston, so it does support the number of buses. There's 5 bus routes, and the Discovery Shuttle does occur in the season to supplement trips by transit to Steveston. It's very important in terms of access to the village.
Okay, my suggestion is we would add a D in accordance with some of this, no, just a minute, party managers, that there be a referral to staff to review the terms of the parking in the private lots on the south side of Bayview, east of number 1 road. So that would incorporate some of the discussion. So can I have a motion including that? Second. Discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I'm now going to recess this meeting until after we finish the public hearing.
Going downstairs or staying
Here. Okay, I'm going to call to order the public hearing. I have a statement for members of the public. The meeting is being convened in order to hold public hearings on land use matters. The public and anyone who believes their interest in property is affected may speak to the item or present written submissions. Everyone will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Those of you who wish to speak or have registered with the clerk should, after being recognized by the chair, begin by stating your name and your address. If you've provided a written submission, make this known at the beginning. All written submissions will be retained by the city clerk, form part of the record of the hearing. Each speaker may address the hearing a maximum of twice. The first presentation is a maximum of 10 minutes, and the second presentation would be on new information limited to 3 minutes. Members of council may ask questions of you following your presentation, but the function of council members during a public hearing is to listen to the views of the public, not to debate the merits of matters with citizens. The order of proceedings for each item will normally be as follows. The city clerk will briefly describe the matter. The applicant or their agent will be invited to make a brief presentation of up to 10 minutes. City clerk will identify written submissions. Oral submissions will then be heard, or any further written submissions. And finally, the hearing will be closed and matters may be considered. So, if you, please observe these rules. If you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, direct your comments to the chair. Madam Clerk, the first item.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item is a temporary commercial use permit for the location of 7791 Steveston Highway. The applicant is Leslie Gordon, and the purpose for the temporary commercial use permit is to allow secondhand retail as permitted use at the address. First reading was on April 13th, 2026.
Okay, is the applicant here today? Did you want to make a presentation or just await questions?
I think we all know.
Yeah, why don't we await questions and we'll see what comes up. Any written submissions?
None, Your Worship.
Anyone else want to speak to us on this item on the agenda?
Move the recommendation.
Discussion, all those in favor, any opposed, that's carried. So we don't need to hear anything. Don't mess with it. Okay, the next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 2, it's Richmond Zoning Amendment Bylaw 10733 for the location of 17720 River Road. The applicant is Stephen Easterbrook, and the purpose is to rezone the subject property from agricultural AG1 to agricultural AG3 to permit use of an additional dwelling unit on site for full-time farm labor accommodation. First reading was on April 13th.
All right, is the applicant here? Did you want to make a presentation or just await questions? Okay, any written submissions? We do have this, which I believe is from the applicant about the matter. It's a PowerPoint presentation, which is self-explanatory. Any other written submissions?
No other submissions.
Anyone want to speak to us on this item on the floor? All right, council action. Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And the third item, Madam Clerk.
Item 3, Richmond Zoning Amendment Bylaw 10747 for the location of 8200 Steveston Highway. The applicant is Corey Liu, and the purpose is to amend the agriculture AG1 zone to permit the development of a 936 square meter greenhouse with concrete footings for agricultural purposes at the address. First reading was on April 27th.
Is the applicant here? Did you want to make a presentation or just await questions? Okay, any written submissions?
No submissions.
Anybody want to speak to us on this item? Anyone?
Move second, third.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just first question to staff. Under the, on our page PH 44, impermeable surface section, talks about a statutory declaration that's required prior to the issuance of the building permit to ensure flooring remains soil-based. A couple questions about that. So it can be soil-based and then they can like put an interlocking plastic layer on top?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the proposal is to have rubberized mats placed on top of the soil, that there would be no change to the underlying soil conditions as a result.
What height, like max height, or is this greenhouse expected to be? I see it here, it's 36.6 meters, but could you put that in like other terms, like floors, how many stories?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, sorry, the question is how many stories would a typical greenhouse?
Oh, this one here, like at 36.6 meters. I'm trying to compare it to the Athenia Acres on 2 Road, that greenhouse that was not compliant, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the height of the greenhouse is 7 meters. So I'd say that in terms of a residential floor to ceiling height, that would maybe be 2 stories, 2 to 3 stories.
Okay, and then my last question, I know I read in the report, the Food Security Agriculture Advisory Committee fully endorsed it unanimously. I look at the map of this, where this parcel sits on our page 48, and I just see the potential impact to food security. So I'm just curious if this parcel puts in a greenhouse. It was recently purchased at $3 million, even though the assessed value is about $30,000. And then a house goes in next, and it sits right in the middle of very large, very active farming. Does this at all like disrupt, because you can see the neighboring parcels on both sides actually cross over this property and they are able to maximize kind of the produce that comes out of this whole area, not just this parcel. So do we happen to know, is the whole 8,200 planning to be sectioned off, fenced off, removed from this larger food production?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, this site will be partitioned, so the southern portion of the site is currently leased to a farmer to produce potatoes and grain, and that will continue to be so. The northern portion will be used for the subject farming operation. We'll produce a range of potted plants and honey and other such produce.
Great. And with the last question, and with what was just stated, that could be compatible with remaining with farm status, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, correct. So the site does have farm status as per BC assessment. It's also been reviewed by the Agricultural Land Reserve as part of a notice of intent application and was deemed to be a permitted farm use.
Great, much appreciated. Thanks.
All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. We are now adjourned. Thanks, folks. Okay, I'll reconvene the General Purposes Committee meeting on the number 5, the award of contract for supply and delivery of fire apparatus. You're going to get 5 units, now you're going to get 7. Right?
That's the plan, Your Worship, yes.
Anything to add to your report?
No, but I'm happy to answer all of your questions right now.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, I got to thank you. I've never seen you move this quickly in my entire career, that all of a sudden we're in a situation where we're wondering whether we have the proper apparatus for our deployed fire services. And a couple weeks later, we're going for 7 pieces of apparatus. So I was critical, but I want to say thank you very much for moving this along. I think you're getting the 3 vehicles this year within the next 100 and some odd days, and 4 more. So congratulations, well done, and thank you.
Thank you.
I think this has been in the hopper for a while, hasn't it?
Yes, Your Worship, there's been a lot of work on this, for sure.
On GP 80, which is page 8 of the report, it talks about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are the 7 units. But you said no to the 12-year-old Pierce ladder, 2014 Pierce ladder. Was there a reason why that was overlooked?
Your Worship, that ladder truck is still a very effective truck. It's not even close to its evergreen time, so we've been very successful with our maintenance programs in pushing the boundaries in the life of these apparatus. So we're very confident that we can make these purchases that we're recommending here in lieu of trying to replace the ladder truck right now.
Okay, Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Thanks for the report, Chief. You know, in my previous life, I'm used to a bit of a shorter turnaround when you talk about the evergreen replacement program. So some of the ages of the vehicles surprised me a little bit. I know fire is different. So can you just comment on what the Canadian kind of industry average is, what their parameters are? And also the second part would be, you know, describe our predictable, sustainable evergreen program. And I understand there was a bit of a glitch or an interference in it was something that happened in 2020. Was that part of why it slowed down?
Thank you. So through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, I can give you 2 perspectives on that. One, yes, there is a much different utilization factor for fire engines than there would be for small vehicles, police cars, etc. The fire engines' mileage is much lower, but their hours of usage on the engines is higher. So they'll be racing to a call that takes them 6-7 minutes to get there, stop and then operate at that call from anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours. And so the wear and tear in the vehicle is much different than a small vehicle. The National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, is a consensus standard organization across North America. And they have recommendations for the replacement of in-service fire apparatus between 0 and 15 years for frontline service, and then up to 25 years for a secondary service when those frontline vehicles are away for maintenance. In Richmond here, we've been very successful in getting up to 17 and 18 years of frontline service, and then a further 5 and 6 years for the secondary. And so that's the maintenance program that we have here that complies with CVSE, as well as our in-house emergency vehicle technician mechanics that not only maintain the vehicles ahead of schedule, but also annually test all the firefighting components and rotate the vehicles through the city to balance the mileage and the hours usages as well.
Okay, and just on the Evergreen, one last question. What factor was COVID in this? Because I think that had an impact on production of vehicles, for instance, even.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yes, during COVID, like every other business, private business, all the fire truck manufacturers in North America shut down and sent their employees home. And they did that for whatever that length of time would have been, several months to, over a year and a half. And so for them to get back into business and step up and get production again, took them a lot of retooling, a lot of difficulty in accessing components like engines, chassis, et cetera. And so they were years behind in their contracted production for fire engines, let alone accepting new contracts for procuring fire engines. They would have taken our money in 2020 and we would have had no guarantee of when and what that truck would look like. And so we opted not to get into that business until we were able to better guarantee exactly what we were getting and when.
Okay, thank you, and yeah, good to see it getting done. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Councillor Day?
Thank you so much, Mayor Brody. Given that like 80 or more % of your calls are medical, what vehicles do you use to respond to those?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we use all of our vehicles, whether it's a fire engine, a ladder truck, or a rescue truck, an equipment vehicle. The crews themselves are the ones staffed on those vehicles, and so they're the ones that provide the medical service, and so the vehicle they're assigned to is the one that goes.
Well, you look at an ambulance, it's a third, a quarter of the size of a fire truck. Wouldn't it be practical to have some smaller vehicles with, oxygen and the basics? Because, we can't be running an IV, there's a lot of things we can't do. But what we can do would, fit in the back of my Mini. So is there not some practical possibility of using a smaller vehicle? If fire comes, everybody hop in the fire truck. But if you're just dealing with a fall or something, not so serious, why couldn't you just hop in like a caravan or something?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I've been a part of those trials in another city, and I do know other smaller municipalities also use that model in some instances. Our deployment model here is unique in that if we had a small ambulance, let's say, and we sent our staff out to the medical call on the ambulance, that isn't our primary course of business delivery. Our primary course of delivery is firefighting, rescue. There's nobody else coming to do that work. And so when our crew, in theory, would be at the medical call on the smaller vehicle, the fire truck would have to come from somewhere else and it would be delayed. Or they'd have to go back and get the fire truck. And so that would add time to the allowing the fire to progress, to cause further damage, to make it much more difficult for us to access victims and that. My best recommendation is the model that we're deploying right now. Although we are using the big heavy trucks to get there, there is less delay for our primary core business, which is firefighting and rescue.
And, if we had a fire, as often as we don't want to have more fires than what we have, and I mean, the education that the fire department has done to prevent fires has dramatically reduced the amount of fire calls. And I don't disagree with taking advantage of getting these units. But when we're done with this, I'd like to make a referral that we consider purchasing smaller units for those non-emergency medical calls, because so many are falls and, people stuck somewhere that just need help getting out. And so if a fire truck is needed, deploy it. But if it's not needed, use a smaller vehicle. It's my opinion.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. 3 questions. So 2 of the but ones to be moved on are the Spartan Rescues. Are those to be replaced with similar kind of wildland rescue capable vehicles?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the Spartan Rescue is a trade name for that truck. It's actually a large, heavy equipment vehicle that carries equipment for structural collapse rescue, advanced auto extrication, hazardous materials, decontamination. Those vehicles do attend wildland fires because they have support capabilities in them, but they do not have water or hoses on them. They are equipment vehicles specially for those technical calls.
And so we're replacing them with kind of like for like?
That's correct, but more modern, updated, and more capable.
Thanks. My next question is, a friend of mine just traded in his F-150, got a new one, and he got about one-sixth of the cost reduced by trading in his well-maintained truck. If we're putting in almost 14 million for new, how much are we gonna expect to get from the ones we're moving on?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, we'll have to see. That process will be managed through the finance department to sell those trucks, either on consignment or to other departments that are needing older used trucks somewhere else in the country.
I think my last question is, I remember 5-6 years ago when this was talked about new vehicles, and Vancouver and other municipalities are have been getting electric ones or hybrid ones. There's nothing in the report about that level of availability. I remember the former chief had mentioned that things are in the works, but they weren't ready yet, or they were ready, but not for Richmond to buy into that. Are we closer? Is it a chance that one of these 7 could be something different than the diesel and to be much more expensive diesel costs likely in the future?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, it was part of the RFP, that the respondents get back to us with the options on electrical and hybrid models. The one vendor did give us some options, and the costs for the electric trucks are significantly higher than the ones for the non-electric trucks. That is one piece of the puzzle here. The other piece is actually the logistical infrastructure to run the program to have an electric or a hybrid fire truck responding out of a fire hall. And in order for that truck to be effective and be able to respond multiple times within an hour or within minutes of each call for service, it has to be able to be charged relatively quickly. We can't have any downtime. And so right now, the current logistical barrier to that is not all of the neighborhoods where our fire halls are located have enough hydro or power infrastructure for us to have energy being pushed into the fire hall to charge those trucks that quickly. There would be a limited number of neighborhoods where we could deploy those trucks. And so that may be more feasible in the future, but right now with our limited number of fire halls and the limited number of trucks we deploy, to have to singly put an electric fire truck in one area, not be able to rotate it for training, for maintenance, for coverage, is operationally very, very limiting. And so we're certainly not opposed to it, but once those logistical challenges can be overcome, I also believe at that point too, the costs for the hybrid trucks would also come down as well and be much more available.
Okay. If the suggestion has been made that there'll be some kind of a referral or amendment or something to look at smaller trucks for the medical calls, I just want to be sure of your experience with that. I heard you say that it was not a viable idea for Richmond. Have I got that right, or what's your words on that?
My experience in that, Your Worship, is that for the limited deployment that we have in Richmond, we have 7 fire halls. And so if one of those crews is out of the hall in a small truck performing a medical service, that entire area has no fire protection. If a fire came in that area, we'd certainly send trucks from other areas, but they would be minutes delayed because they're coming from further away. Right now, if our crews are engaged in a medical emergency, We know that BC Ambulance will be attending within so many minutes, and if we have to leave, we can, and we can fight that fire, rescue people, limit that damage, and limit that exposure. We are a secondary first aid supplier in the city, and our primary service model is firefighting and rescue.
In practice, does that regularly happen, that the crew is on a medical call as a secondary operator and then gets called away to a fire? I mean, does that happen?
It's very rare in our experience here in Richmond, but that would be the model if we had to, simply because we know that there would be a significant delay in that firefighting and rescue.
Yeah, okay. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just quickly, and I thank you for the report, but thank you for the service as well. When you come by my house and the fire truck comes by my house and you have to perform CPR at Edgewater Park, do you not need 4 people? Basically, to do it, you couldn't do it in a mobile, smaller car?
Through your worship,
Basically, you only have 2?
to Councillor McNulty, it's much more effective. The CPR being delivered is better when there's 4 people on scene than just 2.
And when you get that call, you know it's a medical one. I assume through e-call, they say fire, rescue, police, ambulance, whatever. You know it's a medical call at Edgewater Park. Joe Smith has just had cardiac arrest or whatever, and you're on your way because you guys are always first anyhow. And so I just want to, I'm trying to figure out where we go with this. We need 4 people. How you do it, is a fire truck's the best way to do it, I would think. Am I wrong?
Through your worship, to Councillor McNulty, that's our experience right now, and I believe we're delivering a very good service that way. I'm certainly not opposed to coming back and doing some work on relooking at that if that's the wish of council. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we have someone want to move the recommendation?
Second.
So that's moved and seconded. Discussion on the recommendation. Councillor Day, did you want to? No? Okay. We'll call the question then on the recommendation. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Now, Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to evaluate the use of smaller equipped vehicles for medical calls.
Is that seconded? It is not seconded. So, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
The next one is the water restriction, giving the exceptions to it. I mean, I guess we're going to stage 3 pretty quick. That's the expectation, isn't it?
Yes, Metro has indicated that early June, stage 3 will be enacted.
And so if we don't give an exception on someone's new lawn, it's going to be, it's not going to take hold, et cetera.
Yes, through your worship, the intent of this is to give people permits while stage 2 is still in effect and not to be giving new permits when stage 3 is in effect, but still giving people the ability to water if they have a valid permit.
And then the city use of the water for stage 3. Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. First question I have is our very last page, 93. It highlights public land in that table, public lot, sorry, and under stage 2 restrictions for operating water play parks and pools, so like splash parks, I assume. It says prohibited except water play parks with user-activated switches. So if that's where we are right now, do we also put a limit on when those switches can be activated? Because on social media 2 nights ago, someone at midnight was taking videos of Steveston Splash Park with all the water going on.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, so normally our water should not be accessible after hours, so I will take that away and check into that.
Okay, thanks. And then in the executive summary, it highlights that activation of stage 3, which is potentially coming in a few weeks, would restrict the city's ability to maintain its extensive tree inventory due to the configuration of existing sprinkler systems. So I'm curious, do we have like innovative ways that we're planning to deal with our extensive tree compensation plan where we just put lots of trees in the ground and we want to water them. One thing I keep seeing coming from Hamilton daily is all the cranberry bogs with all the sprinklers, hundreds of sprinklers going full tilt. And I know that those drain into water canals, which I believe are considered fish habitat because there are herons, kingfishers, diving ducks that do pull out fish from there. So I'm not sure if we're able to utilize that water or somehow divert it before it goes into those fish habitats where potentially we can utilize all the agricultural water that's going to continue to be used heavily during stage 3 for use elsewhere.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I guess with those types of infrastructure, it would depend on what is in the water, what level of contaminants, fertilizer, herbicides, pesticides, et cetera, that we would be applying elsewhere within the city. Our goal with the recommendation is to ultimately allow us to continue watering of our grass medians, our trees, shrubs, et cetera, similar to stage 2, with the exception we would be really focusing on trees only. So as an example, to maintain our medians, we're typically watering 3 days a week to maintain lush green grass. We'd be able to reduce that to 1 day a week to maintain the tree canopy and our mature trees.
Okay, thanks. And then I remember a week or so ago, the discussion about the future works yard and in the report there, it said basically that we want to, any water that falls in the work yard, we want to get it as quick as possible to the pump station and into the river. To me, it seems like we do need to utilize some underground water storage of rainwater. I don't know where, maybe not the works yard, but some way we need to capture clean rainwater that's not pesticide and other toxic contaminants in it, not street runoff either with all the tire wear and stuff. And then just, I guess, last comment. I'm curious from the mayor's perspective when he speaks as the chair of Metro Vancouver Water Committee, I think, right? No.
Liquid waste.
Liquid waste. But previously you were the water chair. I'm curious what your take is going to be on option 1 status quo or that option 2, which is recommended, which would be to suspend enforcement and what that signal might be to municipalities and users in Richmond about water use. So I'll wait and hear. Thanks.
Well, it's a limited suspension, right? And, and we're only speaking about Richmond because Metro Vancouver, is my understanding, is that they have recommended procedures and bylaws that they disseminate every year, and it's up to the cities to implement them. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, that's correct.
So they say, okay, we're going to stage 3. It's not automatic. It's up to the city then as to going to stage 3. So to suspend at stage 2, to suspend enforcement for these limited reasons, to me, it makes sense. And then that's stage 2 and 3, and then the further ones for the, as set out in recommendation 2. All right, Councilor McNulty.
Yeah, just quickly, with adopting option 2, at least we have control. And if anybody is violating other than what's in there, obviously can fine them. And obviously, a number have already been fined for violating stage 2. And I think one of the things we've got to get the word out that we are at stage 2 and stage 3 is coming, and that'll be automatic. Are mists still going to be going on in various places for the people, especially for August?
Yes,
we have them on the streets and what have you. If people are complaining about the water park, here we got the mist going 10 hours a day.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, that the bylaw does allow for exemptions of water use for public safety.
We call them spray, don't we? Spray, okay. How many permits have you, or bylaws exemptions have you had so far in 2026?
Through the chair, there's been very few so far this year, just because stage 2 was started so early.
Okay. And how do we deal with timed sprinklers in various multi-complexes? They automatically come on Saturday morning. I've reported a couple already. Because of bylaws, and they're watering city boulevards. And the city's got some nice boulevards.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, that's not permitted through the bylaw, so anytime a complaint is received, we usually start with education and then escalate from there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So just on page GP 91, under washing impermeable surfaces, sidewalks, driveways, other outdoor services. So it is now, as of now, with stage 2, illegal to power wash prior to sealing or painting your property for maintenance? Is that right?
Through the chair to Councilor Day, no, that, it means that you are allowed to use it for those circumstances, if it's for health and safety or if you're doing preparation.
Okay, so as long as you're not just doing it to beautify, but you're trying to paint or seal.
Correct.
So it's okay to power wash. Good, thank you.
On a related note, though, the point has been made about the cooling stations and whatever. I'm hoping that our communication staff is getting it out onto onto social media, the steps that we've taken for misting stations, for places where people can go to cool, community centers, other buildings, that sort of thing. Have you got that under control?
Yes.
Okay. So, someone want to move? Second. Moved and seconded. Further discussion, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Someone want to move adjournment? Okay. We'll now go to the closed GP.